We are being bombarded for our attention in today's society, hugely. Either it's accidentally, most of it's intentionally. You only have 24 hours, they're going to be buying for your time.
There's an old saying in the ADHD world is that the pills don't teach the skills.
If there is truly a chemistry balance that needs to be done, that could be done. The golden rule is that no drug has a single effect, period. It just doesn't.
ADHD, it really isn't an attention deficit. It's almost a surplus. And it's about, can you put it where you want it, when you want it?
Focus isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. I have not been formally diagnosed with ADHD, but I'll tell you, everything that if you were to describe the characters of ADHD.
Meet Tom Lukovich, Chief Executive Officer at Silent Rock Workforce, a company helping healthcare organizations maintain strong pharmacy operations through flexible staffing solutions. With a background as a clinical behavioral health pharmacist, Tom brings a fascinating perspective into ADHD business, life, and medicine. Let's get right into the episode. Hey, it's Steve. Real quick before we begin, the single biggest thing I've learned about succeeding as an ADHD entrepreneur is that everything boils down to mastering your weeks. So if ADHD is making business harder than it needs to be, I've got something that can help. Grab my free weekly ADHD dashboard. It's a free, simple, but powerful tool to help you stay focused, organized, and in control of your week. The link is in the description below. Hey, and welcome to another episode of ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. I am your host, Steve August. I'm so glad you're with us today. We've got an amazing guest today, somebody recent few months, and I'm just so pleased to have gotten to know him and welcome him into the podcast. I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to welcome him. Let's talk about Tom Lukovich. Tom Lukovich is the founder and CEO of Silent Rock Workforce, a company focused on strengthening pharmacy operations by connecting healthcare organizations with experienced pharmacists and technicians when they need them most. With a background as a clinical behavioral health pharmacist and site manager in a county healthcare system, Tom has firsthand experience with the pressure pharmacies face when staffing gaps threaten patient care. Through Silent Rock Workforce, he works with hospitals, retail pharmacies, and long-term care operations to keep pharmacy services running smoothly without the burdens of traditional staffing models. Tom is known for challenging inefficient middleman systems and advocating for more direct, agile partnerships that support both pharmacy professionals and the organizations they serve. He frequently speaks about pharmacy workforce dynamics, healthcare operations, and the importance of building resilient pharmacy teams that can adapt to today's rapidly changing healthcare landscape. I just want to say before I welcome Tom in, one of the absolute pleasures of working with ADHD entrepreneurs is just the number of interesting things that they are into and helping and creating solutions for. And Tom is no exception here. So without further delay, let's welcome in Tom Lukovich. Tom, great to have you here today.
It is wonderful to be here, Steve. You are hired, my friend. That was a wonderful introduction. I'm taking that, putting it on the website.
All right.
Oh, wow. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, you gave it to me, so it's, yes. So it should sound pretty good.
It sounded completely different. I just thought, wow, that was the right voice and everything. I just loved it.
It's how I read it. It's all in the intonation.
It most certainly is. Thank you for that.
So where in the world do we find you today, Tom?
Well, let's see. To tell you truthfully, I'm probably not too far from you. Down the street would be one way to put it. But I'm calling from Oregon City, Oregon. So, just a little bit south from Portland, Oregon. It's amazing that, the cohorts in this area, the cohorts that come to the wonderful calls in the mornings are all over the world. So I just feel, I'm blessed that I'm close to where you are, and then at the same time, it's just amazing to see everybody from all over the world benefit from what we got going on here.
Tom joins us in our accelerator co-working sessions, the ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator, and I always joke, how's the weather down south? Because I'm here in Portland, and Tom is down about 30 minutes away in Oregon City. It's a real pleasure. We've met in person once. I'm sure we're going to do it again. And it's good to have a neighbor right here on the podcast. So let's dig into your story. I met you at the end of 2025. And you had come through my program. It was called Weekly OS at the time. It's now called Focus Formula. And yet, tell me a little bit about what your journey to get there was. What's been your journey with ADHD and how you ended up there in that program?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been actually, if we want to go far back where, just working as a pharmacist and in that particular setting as a behavioral health pharmacist for a little over 5 years, I was in the center of it with my patients that way. I mean, I've seen everything, the outcomes, the medications and everything. One thing I've noticed that even with when things get stabilized, medication wise, there my patients were still struggling with that, with the structure and the focus.
So, Tom, you and I encountered each other or met each other at the end of 2025 when you enrolled in my program, which was called Weekly OS. At the time, it's now called Focus Formula. And I was just really curious to hear more about your journey to that led you to sign up and enroll in that program.
Absolutely, 100%. So I run a business right now. You know that I've been a pharmacist for, 25 plus years. And it was burning my heart to start a business. So, and a lot of people who have anything of high energy, idea generation, we have this kind of what we kind of label ourselves as ADHD. So I was struggling really in the business. It was to start a project was one of the biggest things that was just, killing me. And so I was looking for I was looking for a platform out there. I'll be honest with you. I was looking for a platform and stumbled upon X Tiles, which I absolutely love. And that's how I met you. It was just happening around the Black Friday area or something like that. The owners, I believe, of X Tiles also collaborated with you. And I joined in a webinar and I'm thinking, what you were saying that day completely resonated with me because I thought, wow, those are the exact, when you reel off, this, you were talking about, you defined it a week, the container of a week. And you just described what the struggles I was going with. I know I kind of jumped around there a bit, but that was a big thing that led me to you. I'm thinking, wow, I can't wait to be a part of this. And you describe what you guys do. I'm thinking, let's try that because I'm definitely not getting anywhere what I'm doing. The structure, the focus was completely off. Just starting something was tough. It gets to be overwhelming when too many things are on the plate. And especially when you're running a business, you wear all the hats. A week goes by and you wonder what happened. I love how you mapped that out, Steve. You just said to get started and start. And by Wednesday, wait a minute, I didn't do anything. By Friday, it's damage control. That was me. I have not been formally diagnosed with ADHD, but I'll tell you, everything that if you were to describe, the characters of ADHD, I definitely, showed it. That's for sure. So that's what made me.
It is a common thing of like looking over the week and starting out with high ambitions and excitement and finishing it with surveying the wreckage. And that's part of what brings people in. Were you cognizant of ADHD? Like where did it become something that showed up on your radar for you as you journeyed through life?
Really, when I had that desire to start my own business. That's it. I think as a pharmacist, we tame that thing in that discipline, if you will. Focus isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. So as a pharmacist, I don't think I ever showed that, any of the characteristics of what's you label as ADHD. It really became when I went out and decided I want to start my own business. And even starting that became an issue. Sometimes that's the biggest thing. We find out a lot of the people that are having a lot of things are entrepreneurs, are they not? I mean, that's really, I like it. That's cool. It also shows that sometimes it takes this wonderful, like I said, I've called it a gift, is that it takes that to become an entrepreneur. The thing is, though, we need to harness that power of that 750, I call it a 750 horsepower engine. It needs to be harnessed correctly and tamed, so to speak. Meek, power under control. It's a very useful tool. In fact, to get from point A to point B, you have to execute. We get that in this business. We idea generate, and we just want to do it. So anyway, that's really where it came from. When I want to start a business, that's really when I started noticing that, boy, I'm having challenges. I started struggling, and the more it started growing, the more struggling I had. So that's when I went seeking around Thanksgiving time.
Appreciate you sharing that. And, having worked with a lot of ADHD entrepreneurs, your story resonates because, I imagine being a pharmacist in a situation, whether you're in a store or whatever, it's a pre-structured environment, right? There's a process for everything. There's rules about everything. If you're an employee or a team member, a lot of stuff is taken care of. and is already figured out in their structure. You flag the ADHD propensity to create, to like want to do things and make connections and see problems and want to solve them. And then we get out into our own business and we don't have the structure anymore. We don't, both on a kind of day to day, here's what I do next. And I kind of, okay, how do I get from point A, here I am right now, to point B, which may be 6 months out, a year out, 2 years out, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I think your story really resonates. What kinds of things did you try as you started to understand that you had this big engine and creative engine, what Dr. Hallowell in ADHD 2.0 calls the Ferrari engine with the bicycle brakes?
What a great analogy.
Yeah.
That really is it. And it's really, it's the steering too. I mean, it's like at Ferrari, it's going, or Lamborghini, it was Ferrari.
It was Ferrari, yeah.
Going all over the place. And it's
Mm.
really not the problem that it's going too fast. It's just that it needs steering.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of things did you try before you encountered like, before you encountered X-Tiles and things like that? Were there other things you tried? And you're obviously very, from a medicine point of view, a medication point of view, very educated as a pharmacist. So I'm curious to see what things did you kind of bring into play?
I've tried several platforms before, organization type platforms or things that, I don't want to bring up any names or like that, but none of them really, I don't know. They just didn't hone on the skill set that needed to be, gravitated to that or to result in that particular outcome. Xtiles had something a little bit different. I do vouch for that thing. And I love how that template you set up too. It's beautifully done. So I have tried other things we'll use software as a system, software as a, as a service type platforms. And there's just that mindset because I'm also a classical pianist. So I know it requires discipline. I do work out. Interesting enough, these 25-minute sprints have improved both of those tremendously. What I've gotten out of here, and I know I'm kind of jumping to here, is that it's translated to everything I do, everything from yard work to working out. I could put everything to 20. It's no problem executing things nowadays. I mean, it's just like you compartmentalized into a nice small little nugget, and you could really get so much. I've said this on your cohorts. It's amazing how much work you could do in 25 minutes. Let me add a couple other things that didn't quite work, things that suppress all these external factors. We are being bombarded for our attention in today's society. Hugely. Either it's accidentally, most of it's intentionally. You only have 24 hours and they're going to be buying for your time, right? I mean, we get those dopamine hits. We need those because the dopamine desert is too long. What we've done in this 20-foot weave, and I give you such good kudos on this. The 25-minute thing has been around for a little while. You've just taken that tool and put in this beautiful application. It shortens that dopamine desert, and you get to do it with people, not just by yourself. So things haven't been successful to this point. To do this business requires a lot. I did not know that getting into this thing, and a lot of people fail because of that. You do have to push through those things, but having this really cuts it to a beautiful chase, Steve. It really does.
You've given me a little peek behind the scenes of what you're building and your industry, and it seems like it's a super exciting opportunity. You've been in the pharmacy industry for a long time, and now you're bringing those skills, that knowledge, and that experience, and then being able to leverage that into the opportunity you see in front of you. So having, taking the brakes off and having the steering, it's really exciting to see. I would be remiss if I didn't ask, as a pharmacist, there's a lot of discussion, sometimes very lively discussion about medications and ADHD. And I'm just curious, from your point of view, both personally and as a pharmacist, what is your take on the medications? Because I have people. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? There are some things when the chemistry may need to be corrected, or sometimes deficiency, or it could be environmental disruptors. So there's a lot of mediators that could cause chemistry to be off. Sometimes there's a lot of it that all it needed was some structure and some focus techniques to get it under control. So there's a lot of people being given medications that probably don't need it. Not saying that's always the case. A lot of times it is very much justified. A long time ago, back in probably my college days, I did, I was able to try what it was like to be on a stimulant. So it's an interesting question that I always get, that how come a stimulant makes a person calm? It basically, you get dopamine, you get norepinephrine, elevated, and it actually fills in this gap of this attention that's being deprived. So that kind of fills in that gap. So there are times it definitely needs to be corrected. But now that we have something corrected, we still struggle. And I see that too. By the way, I was going to get onto something I was saying there about when I tried it back in my college years. I was so focused when I studied this one test. It was a whole kind of experiment that we were doing, but yet I didn't remember. I couldn't recall a thing. I did a great job on staying focused, but I couldn't recall well. So there's still that perfect balance for that particular individual that needs to be fine-tuned. But now, once we got that, there's still another step that needs to be done that's very important, and that is this building on a focus. And that is this technique that I'm finding out that's missing a lot. So definitely medications are have their place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You and then you ask any questions I had between that, Steve. Don't hesitate. You got me this is a perfect time to do it.
Yeah, because I know, especially for folks who are newly diagnosed, and in my journey, and our medical system is very much diagnose and prescribe, right? It's like you get a diagnosis, say for ADHD, and they're like, here's your Adderall, off you go, right? Essentially, without telling you, okay, no, this is what it actually means for your brain. It's actually an executive function thing. It's actually got all this stuff associated. It's got time blindness and impulse control and working memory deficits and things like, emotional dysregulation and things like that. They don't tell you that. They just say, well, this will help. And so my journey is like, I started on the Adderall and it worked great for 3 weeks. And then it stopped. It started to lose its effect. I think my body really adapts to things pretty quickly. And then it took me some pretty dark places. And Ritalin did the same. And then tried a few other supplemental types of things like L-theanine and caffeine, which just made me jittery. And then for 3 months, it was Wellbutrin, because it's an NDRI, right? Norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitor, right? I was like, well, those are the 2 things I need, right? Maybe that'll work. And it worked for 3 months. It was beautiful. It was like one of the best 3 months of my life. And then it started to like fade as well. So I'm not really on any medication right now, but it is a question I get asked, and people are always exploring. And so, yeah, if there's anything in there that you've seen, that people should be considering, both from there's medications, but there's also other things out there, supplements or things like that, or basic health, kind of like, if you bring up your base level energy and well-being, then that'll help your executive function. So anything in that realm that you've seen or experienced?
Right. You know what? That's where I lean to very heavily, what you just said. Let's break it down. When it comes to everything from sleep hygiene, I mean, the first thing they do is they give some to help with that. You're right. They prescribe pretty fast. I'm not knocking, any kind of the profession and everything like that. But my whole thing, what I do now, I mean, understand that's how I was trained. But I'd like to give, let's break down, just try and get back to a normal, healthy baseline. Let's start with nutrition first. And there's just the habits of just exercise. It's profoundly amazing when you just do those 2 things. You hear the thing that, they don't teach that much in the schools of medicine and pharmacy for that matter. I don't want to say it's deficient, but that's what we used to do back in the old days, and it seemed to have some kind of a ground to it. So I really do that first. Let's break that down. And before we go jump in, because medications will be, like you said, the body starts adapting to it. And here's one thing that I take away from pharmacists go back in the old days. It was really the golden rule is that no drug has a single effect, period. It just doesn't. You will have all kinds of other kind of effects that happens. You'll get this going on. Same thing also, that the more miraculous the drug seems to be, let's see, both my hands here. We have more side effects as well. So that happens, like, wow, this does everything. It's an incredible drug. We find out later, after using it for many years, that it has some issues that, this ends up being really bad. Next thing you know, it's taken off the market. doesn't all. I'm not generalizing or stuff like that, but we see this happen every once in a while. So regardless of, the medication scene and how it's going to play into correcting the chemistry of ADHD, one way or another, we still have to develop the application of how we go about controlling this beast, of ADHD. I honestly, if I also may say a thing, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I mean, I also think I hate labeling anything as a disorder. I just think it needs to be redirected, and there's really not attention deficit. It's actually just more like a restlessness. That's what we're trying to fill in this gap. Well, let's take that apart and work on that and break it down. And when we break it down into this application process, like I've been discovering over the last 3 or 4 months, that's remarkable. So it's like, all right, now back to your question. Are medication is always usually the answer to that? Well, first let's do this. And then if we're still having that, we could do just a tweak a little bit, just a tweak, a little touch of it, and see about maybe just taking that and put it in. Whether it's a stimulant such as Adderall or Ritalin, and some people have been on it for really long terms. Like you said, we do adapt. Humans, we just adapt pretty easy to, and next thing you know, it's not as effective as it used to be. I think having this, we're able to find out and see how we can apply this, you're much more powerful.
There's an old saying in ADHD world is that the pills don't teach the skills. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's true. Like, I am agnostic. It's like the things that work for you are the things that work. That's my philosophy, right? If it works
Yeah.
for you and it isn't causing long-term damage or anything like that, then it works.
I think you get liberated if we could find this, and let's at least do this. If we need to, if is truly a chemistry balance that needs to be done, that could be done. And if it'll let you, your body will let you know if that's required.
Right.
And we could do that very gingerly. And I'll still always say, as a scientist, that's how what we know now. Okay, I don't conclude or close the door on anything. That's what we know now, and we're gonna find out. I've, both with diet and everything else, I've gone all around the moon and back and stuff like that. And found out some of these diets were great, but they weren't sustainable. And I think that applies to this too. It was great. It was a corrective measure. I think this could be applied to this. And like I said, what I've discovered and stumped upon your resources and your actually application. Hey, we are going to do this. We're going to do it together. We're going to do it as a group. And wow, what a neat place to be. It's remarkably profound, Steve. Seriously. I mean that sincerely.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that. And there is something, and I just wrote a post today with, I think there's a sense of, in the ADHD world and in the marketing of the ADHD world, is that people are pitching single thing solutions. Take this pill,
Yes.
take this supplement,
Yes.
use this app, do
Yes.
this thing. And what I found is like there is almost a scaffolding that we need, right? And I find that for a lot of people, as you called out, that there is a huge benefit in doing it with other people who are of a similar brain. And I agree. I don't like the term disorder. I know in order for diagnostic needs, they need to call it a disorder. I just think of it as a different brain type. And we need all the kinds of brains in the world to make
Right.
our way.
100%.
But doing it with other people, one, it can be very isolating and lonely to be neurodiverse in a neurotypical world, because we're masking and we'll isolate because we'll reach our threshold of how much input we can take, because we're always like taking any input and magnifying it like many times over with all the ideation and creativity. And I find that when we get together with people, not only do we get a sense of community and a sense of accountability, but there's a co-regulatory part of this that I think, I've only really come to appreciate over the last year, as this is my year 3 of my ADHD journey diagnosed. It's year 57 of a living experience with it. I just only knew that this was what was going on the last 3 years. And the thing that's really interesting is that the emotional and nervous system regulation is so interwoven with our executive function, right? Our executive function is really what's in play. You called out ADHD. It really isn't an attention deficit. It's almost a surplus. And it's about, can you put it where you want it, when you want it, for how long you want to put it, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so part of what prevents us from doing that is that we also get very, very easily dysregulated. We can get really spun up and swirled around just by going through life. And so what I find with the group, doing it as a group, there's something about being with other people who get you. You don't have to mask, and you can, there's something co-regulating about it. And I think it's an underappreciated form of not treatment, but like support.
No, it's just like you're a a coach that's going at someone. What do they call it? People that go to the gym that they hire a person to be there as their workout, work workout coach. And so that's really what it is. And I was just thinking of two things that you just said. It's so common that we get tunnel vision. We do one attack from one particular angle when really it requires more holistic, whole body or whole approach, I think is the way to say it. I'll have to think about this. I think about a lot, how do I define what my thoughts are on this whole thing? It's its own version of trying to get it corral it down. Because it's a huge thing that we're all challenged with. What I'm noticing with entrepreneurs too, that we don't have anybody above that we could help us. And so we have to help ourselves. We have to do that. We don't have anybody above us. And so a nice organization like this is like a lot of them are entrepreneurs. We have artists in there too. That's wonderful. That their whole thing is to, get something progressed into a nice definable time. 25 minutes is a perfect number. Wow, that we're finding. It's a sweet spot that, as we know now. But I just love it. But I'll go, it's like yard work outside. I have to do this project. I have to trim trees and I'll push it off. But I'm going to just go out there for 25 minutes and boom.
Yeah.
Now I've just isolated this, this whole, procrastination that could have gone all the way to next year. And it's just like, I'll, do it later, where I do it now and it gets done. I've translated that into a whole bunch of things, Steve. And like I said, it's been a whole wonderful shift as of this year. Just something that hey, I'll learn at my age on this whole thing that I never thought I would.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, very much.
I love to hear it too, because, we go through life into our patterns, into our lanes. And one of the things that you're a perfect illustration of, and, a lot of people in the group, in the accelerator program, ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator Program, also are a great example of, is, the society has this infatuation with 30 under 30 and people doing things when they're young. But there's so much, like, there's so many amazing things that you and other people are doing in, later chapters in life, right? And part of the unlock, as we get older, it gets harder in terms of executive function, and just level of energy, and to see and be able to harness that wisdom and that knowledge and all that experience, and see that starting to coalesce into like an amazing, like what you're building is amazing. It just looks like it's about to take off, and it's just a wonderful thing to see.
One thing that I mentioned to you when we had our lunch together, that found a way, or this redirects dopamine. I've said that just plain to you. What you've done is basically redirect this dopamine. When you get that progress, we get that dopamine hit. I love it, and I want more of that. So it's like, give me another 25 minutes. It's like I'm begging for it. Well, it really is. And it's like, and then what was that one time I was able to go snowboarding for a couple days? Remember that? You remember that was so. It's like, that was a good week. I want some more of those.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I wish we could add more snow for you this year in order that you could have those. But that is you point out another thing that's really interesting, a phenomenon that I see as well, is that when we're able to actually move stuff forward and make progress on the things that in the general timeframes that we intend to, like, it's never perfect, but if we sit down in the course of a day and we have these things to do and we actually move them forward, then over time, the other parts of our life become more accessible. Like, we're not always spending all our downtime, like, catching up. And you can go snowboarding and you can live the other parts of your life. And that, to me, is like the biggest win. Like, it's not even the business wins. Like, the business wins are great. Love them, want them. But that ability to have the business win on Friday and, like, just have a great weekend is like the bigger win.
It actually feeded the whole thing the next week too. So there was, it's like, okay, now this is getting where it's supposed to be. the first time. It's fine. It's a wonderful place. And what I like about another thing that we will every once in a while drift, but we know how to also pull back. And if sometimes we explain ourselves and what's said in the community is just like, you just need to pull it back, and that's good. And we do that. We recognize that. Awareness is one of the key tools to this whole process. And you see other people, having that same struggles too. I like that too. So it really ends up being the cohort thing is extremely strong to me. I love that part. You got a lot of resources. It's good too. Barry was able to patch into, but what I've seen has just been fantastic. But the cohort things are really, that's the gold. That's the sauce. It really is. I love that part.
Yeah.
That's my,
Awesome. And I'm so happy to be supporting you in that. In our family, we have, have a kid who has had, serious health issues over the years. My wife went through and successfully came through the other side of breast cancer. The thing that has been the glue the whole time, or part of the picture, is the pharmacy that we go to down the street, the Safeway pharmacy, and the pharmacist there. And you can see, over the years, especially since the pandemic, the pressures that have been put on the pharmacists themselves in the industry. And the fact that you are, and I don't know that people always appreciate what a glue they actually are in terms of care delivery. And the fact that you're supporting that group of people and helping them find their way and helping make sure that the service is available to the people who need them. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing.
Oh, thank you for that. They're deserving. We got a great crew that we let in kind of a very select people because it takes a very special skill set to do what we do in our group, because we're going into someone else's kitchen and cooking a good meal. We like to be seamless, as if that we've been there for a long time. So, it does take that person that's also gifted, but we also like to bring them autonomy in their lives. That helps them feel better care and service, to be honest with you.
And if they're coming from that point of view, then the care that people are getting and their lives are improved to the people who need the medication. So the mutual admiration society that we have generally in the accelerator and specifically here is like, I help you do that, or the things that I can provide that can help you do that better. That helps the things that you do happen better, and that helps more people. And ultimately, I think that's the true measure of the success.
It is. It truly is. Amen to that. Yeah.
It's been amazing talking with you today. If people wanted to find out more about you, where should they go?
Well, we could always come here, to the Cohort session. We could always chat, behind the scenes or something like that. Or everybody has access to me somehow or another with, the website, which is silentrockworkforce.com. Once again, it's Pharmacist staff agency, so it probably won't apply to you necessarily, but there's a way to get a hold of me there. And I welcome anybody in for any discussion. I just enjoy it. And if I don't have time, I will find time. I will get a hold of you. I respond to everything.
I really appreciate that. When we had our coffee together, and you were so freely sharing your knowledge of the things you've experienced with medicine and supplements, and I know you were just on a 5-day fast, so you've got a real sense of lots of different things, and it comes from a person with the training on the medicines front, on the medical front, and so I found it to be of tremendous value. So if anybody out there is listening to Tom and going, yeah, that guy has some wisdom that I might want to tap, don't hesitate, and it'll be a really great conversation for you.
Yeah, I try to give people what I've found, not what I've heard.
And that's what they need.
Well, that's it. It's like, this is what I've experienced. And so I'm always tinkering. I like optimizing. That's what I like doing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of say, if I could cut someone to the chase so they don't have making mistakes, that's better. But we do like to do that because it ends up being a wonderful life.
Yeah. Amazing. Tom, so great to have you on the podcast. So great to talk with you. Thanks for spending some time with us today. And that'll do it for this episode of ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. Tune in next week. We'll have another episode for you. Until then, we'll see you soon.